In this video, we're going to take a look at the Billboard 200 in 1991 when Nirvana brought Seattle's music scene into the national spotlight and overtook the king of pop, Michael Jackson. Nirvana's breakthrough hit album Nevermind was released in the US on September 24, 1991. Looking at free resources such as Wikipedia or chart company websites, we can find snapshots of a record's reception history, but they don't tell us much about the record's performance over time or how it stacked up against the competition. MusicID's visualization tools uniquely encapsulate these narratives, turning big data into insight. So let's turn to the charts, as only MusicID can show them. Looking at the Billboard 200, we find that Nevermind wasn't an overnight success. Nevermind entered the chart October 12th at number 144. Adding Michael Jackson's much-anticipated Dangerous, which came out a month after Nevermind, to our custom graph in MusicID, it's no surprise to find that it debuted at number 1. Relative to Jackson and the juggernaut of his international publicity, you can see how Nirvana, shown here in green, made a steady climb up the chart as word of mouth spread. Dangerous broke new ground for Jackson and for American R&B, affirming the creative potential of New Jack Swing. But new as New Jack Swing was, its 80s pop roots were overcome by the more radically new sound of grunge. Even Nirvana's own manager had dismissed the possibility of dethroning the king, but on January 10th, Nevermind rose to number 1 as Dangerous dropped to number 5. Nevermind's producer Butch Vig told Entertainment Weekly that in retrospect, September 91 was really the death of the 80s. Zooming out to both records' performance through 1994, you can see how Nevermind was more enduring, having a longer time in the top 10 and a slower descent, while Jackson's sales dropped off more steeply. The long view also shows us how each artist's sales were affected by national publicity, with Jackson rocketing back into the top 20 after his landmark halftime performance at the 1993 Super Bowl, and Nirvana spiking after singer Kurt Cobain's tragic death in April 1994. Curiously, the first molestation allegations levied against Jackson in August of 1993 seem to have given him a brief uptick in sales, as you can see in this detail. Now, Nirvana's unexpected triumph is no great secret, but MusicID's visualization tools make it easier for research to find the untold stories. While pulling up these charts in MusicID to compare the successful grunge artist against major pop artists, a user noted the diversity of the top albums in the fall of 1991, which encompass everything from dance pop to country, and added some to her graph in curiosity, expecting the chart performance to demonstrate a more limited niche appeal. Instead, our user found that sales of one of these other hits, Metallica's self-titled album, the so-called Black Album, completely eclipsed both Nirvana and Michael Jackson. As we saw before, Dangerous had a substantially stronger debut than Nevermind, opening to 4 consecutive weeks at number 1, but Nevermind had greater longevity, charting higher and longer than Dangerous over 1992. Metallica, shown in orange, was the band's first number 1 album, and it too debuted with 4 weeks at the top, before it was bumped by Garth Brooks' Rope in the Wind, a milestone in itself as the first country album to open at number 1 on the 200. But neither country nor pop nor grunge could stamp out metal. In the absolute view of the graph in MusicID, which superimposes each record's line from the same starting point, we can see that the Black Album charted even longer than Nevermind, 73 weeks longer to be precise, and 5 times longer than Dangerous, which charted for 119 weeks. So Metallica not only matched the King of Pop's opening power, but had consistently higher sales than the hottest new phenomenon of the decade, grunge. Just for fun, let's pop Garth Brooks into the graph. In terms of weeks at the top, clearly, none of our other players came close to Rope in the Wind, shown in aqua, which held on to the number 1 and 2 positions from October 18th to March 27th, with a total of 18 weeks at number 1. However, like Dangerous, it completely dropped out of the chart after 132 weeks, while Metallica endured to the start of 1997, 592 weeks. To date, no other Metallica album has come close to the success of the Black Album, which has earned twice as many platinum records as the band's second most successful album, And Justice for All. Metallica's incredible success in 1991 puts the truism that the 80s died that year in an interesting light. Metallica's brand of metal is firmly rooted in the 80s, and like grunge, thrash had its commercial peak in the early 90s. Only where grunge had suddenly gone from small clubs to the main stage, Metallica had gone from a catalog of multi-platinum albums to platinum certifications in the double digits. Thrash, grunge, and New Jack Swing are all genres which began in the 80s and declined in popularity after about 1994. Synthpop and power ballads may have gone extinct after 1991, but looking at the decade's music as a whole, it seems that the 80s weren't quite so eager to die.